So, one of the biggest questions that Star Wars The Clone Wars left after its run was whatever happened to the new character they introduced in the story, Anakin's Padawan, Ahsoka Tano. But that question was answered about 2 years ago in Star Wars Rebels, where she showed up alive and well, working under the rebellion as their informant named Fulcrum. But what happened in between those two moments? What happened in between her joining the rebellion and her leaving the Jedi Order? Well, this here book is here to answer that. Written by E.K. Johnston, the plot, as I said, follows Ahsoka's time before joining the rebellion, after the rise of the Empire. Taking place mostly on the planet of Rada, Ahsoka decided to hide out in the Outer Rim to avoid encountering the ever-expanding Empire, as they continue to hunt Force users. Of course, while she's there, she ends up growing closer and closer to local farmers, and begins forming some sort of life there before the Empire shows up to ruin things, as they do. She tries at first to help the farmers with a little bit of rebellion here and there, little spice of the Empire here and there, but ultimately things get too big for her liking and she decides to take up her natural instinct and flee before things get even worse. But while she's on the run, she decides she doesn't actually like hiding out and running all the time, so she decides to do her own little bit to help some of the disenfranchised people that have been had their lives ruined by the Empire. Eventually seeking out what remaining friends she might have had, she goes out to find Senator Bail Organa, whereas they just decide to go looking out for her after hearing her tales of helping people here and there. After Toka decides it's best to return to Rada to save the people there in the end. Overall, this is a very simple story, something meant to bridge a gap between her appearance at the end of Clone Wars and her appearance in Rebels. And it gives off a cool bit of lore about why Sith lightsabers are always red, and also explains why Ahsoka will get her cool new white lightsabers as she has in Rebels. It's basically just a bridging tale, but don't take us not against the book because it's ultimately a very good bridging tale. Seeing Ahsoka's struggles on her own and her pining for the time she spent with her friends from the Jedi Order and even some of the clones, it's generally a pretty hard thing. She's someone who was raised her entire life by the Order, and eventually found it hard to separate herself from them after losing her perceived place among them. Now she's entirely alone in the world, and everyone that she knows and loves is either dead or gone. And watching as she adapts and even takes on some of the traits of some of her teachers is pretty interesting. Throughout the book, she constantly wonders what Master Skywalker or what Master Obi-Wan would do, and even has a strong desire to someone to talk to like she did R2 or any of the clone troopers. Kind of makes that hug between her and Rex and the Rebels hit even stronger than before. Also scattered throughout the book are Ahsoka's thoughts on the Siege of Mandalore. For those of you who don't know, it was a moment where Ahsoka, leading a group of clone troopers before the fall of the Republic, led a siege on Mandalore to try and defeat Darth Maul. It also goes over her fight with Darth Maul and her originally going into hiding to separate herself from Rex and the other clones. This piece of the book isn't really too great, and it only is there to explore her themes of loneliness in a sort of dreamlike state, but I do admit it is somewhat of a drag. Overall, this is a pretty good lead into her role in the Rebels, and the events are pretty great. The story is a good read, at least well into Rebels, which is, again, a pretty good thing, because Rebels is pretty good. And if you're a fan of Ahsoka's character, this is a must-read. But if you don't like her that much, then I can see you avoiding this highly. I mean, her name is literally the title of the book.